and welcome to Country Life Simple. It's time to bake another bread, another sandwich loaf. This time we're going to do a rye loaf. Last week, or whatever it was, last time we baked a spelt sandwich bread, and it was a bit more complicated, a bit more steps. It's not my preference. Sometimes I do like to experiment with different flours, but in general I really prefer the rye flour, and either a mixture of rye and wheat or rye, wheat and spelt, but with the majority of flour being rye. Today we're going to do 100% rye bread, and it's going to be like a sandwich bread. So I'll show you the steps. Firstly, I did ferment 255 grams of rye flour, 255 milliliters of water, and about 25 grams of my auto starter overnight. So this has nicely fermented, and you can see the bubbles in there. So it's about 4 o'clock now, and I had this going since last night at maybe 8ish, 8 o'clock, 7:30. It is quite warm. We have about 30 degrees, nighttime temperatures of maybe around 15. So yeah, it has risen nicely, and will look quite good when we put it in the bowl. So now I'm gonna add 260 grams of water, warm water, not hot but warm. 370 grams of rye flour, 10 grams of salt. And I bought a new scale, and oh yeah, this is much more accurate than the last one I had. And 20 grams of honey. This is actually, it's a local honey. It's a turmeric honey. Another bit. And that will give it a really nice flavor. I also, I've been eating white bread for a little while because I was away. I'm going to add some LSA into my bread, just for the sake of it. All right, and then I'm also going to add my starter. Take this off. So rye bread, you don't have to fold and stretch. Rye does have very, very little gluten. It doesn't create, you know, the sort of, it doesn't create a texture you can just easily knead with your hands. It's quite sticky. It's always quite wet. So the easiest way is to just, and this one is really a very quick and easy recipe. So now we're going to mix this all up. So as you see, this looks very, very different to the spelt flour we used last week, which sort of really nicely came off the side of the bowl, and was easy to manipulate and fold and stretch. Yeah, you don't have that with rye flour. But because of that, it's also easier to use. So I oiled this bread tin, and I'm now putting the dough straight inside it right after it's being kneaded. And see how sticky it is. Oh, I need some space here. I hate having to knead rye dough with my hands because it is so sticky. You have to have sort of wet hands, and then you can sort of handle it a little bit, but you see it is quite liquid and sticky. So I just flatten this here a little bit, make it as even as I can, and then I let it rest with a tea towel on top of it for about 2 hours. Mind you, it is quite warm where I am. It might be a little bit shorter, but what I'm sort of expecting to see before I put it in the oven is a rise probably just over the baking dish. And I'm trying to get it here as even as possible. But that'll do. It'll sort itself out. I shall soak this and go and water my garden. See you in 2 hours. I just watered my garden and have come back in to have a look at my bread and turn on the oven to heat it up. What I've forgotten to show you before, I just used a little brush and some water just to put some water on the surface of the bread, and then I added some more flour so that the towel doesn't stick to it. So I'll show you how this looks like. Oh, you're falling over. Alright, ready? Ta-da! So yeah, as you see, I put some flour on top so that the towel doesn't stick to it, otherwise you sort of rip it when you take the towel off. I've forgotten to show you that before, sorry. And now I'm just going to do a little bit of a pattern, little zigzag. That looks good, and there's still a little bit of moisture around, so probably I'll put a little bit more water on, but not much. And I've got my little oven preheated. I'm just going to check the temperature. Turn the light on. Yep, 230, which is the hottest temperature my oven can do. If you do have a normal oven, try to heat it to 250 degrees. That's the reason I'm using a silicone form. I do have like a nice ceramic form, but if I put that in the hot oven, it cracks. So I'm gonna put it in the hot oven for 10 minutes and then reduce the temperature to 200 degrees and let it bake for another hour. So 70 minutes in total. Take my little thermometer out, put the bread in, put the thermometer back in to make sure it stays at that temperature. And now 10 minutes on maximum heat, then reduce to 200 degrees and bake for another hour. And I shall see you soon. Alright, so this is how the bread looks like. Turned out pretty good. It's
not too heavy, so like some of the bread. Let's slice it up. Nice and crispy. Beautiful. Looks really good inside. Like a really nice, yummy rye bread. I hope you enjoy it.
I hope you enjoyed today's video on how to make a relatively quick and easy sourdough rye sandwich loaf, and you enjoy the bread. Please comment below and let me know what sort of recipes you would like to see, and I try to whip something like that up. But now I want to answer some of the questions you guys had in the last few videos. So one of the questions was if you can freeze the starter and then reuse it. So as you might remember in my last video when I made the spelt sandwich loaf, I used all of my starter without taking anything off the bread. And I ended up with no starter. However, I did freeze some as an experiment, so I thought I'll try that. And I can tell you, once you freeze it, unfortunately, it's dead. I had to revive it the same way as I would create a new starter. So really it wasn't worthwhile. It didn't come out of the freezer and start bubbling again. It was dead. I don't know, maybe other people have other experiences. That was my one and only experience I had. But yeah, unfortunately, it did not work. It was dead. So I had to, start up a new starter. I did the same as I showed you in my earlier on video. I used a mixture of yogurt, water, some caraway seeds and flour. Mixed that all up, left it for about 5 days. And because of the heat we have now here in central Queensland, it was good to go after about 5 days. So that was what I was using in today's loaf. Another person had a question in regards to the consistency of the batter when they do the pre-dough. They said that it was quite watery and a bit more like pancake mix. If it is that watery, that is probably your starter. I probably do need a little bit more information, like how much starter did you use, how much flour, how much water, what was the temperature, etc. If you have a flat starter, if your starter isn't bubbly and energized and happy, your pre-dough will not really turn out great. You need to have a good strong starter. If you can't get a good strong starter, you can add some yeast, but a lot of people are really opposed to this. But you know, the fermentation process, it is actually yeast, which is sort of created in a way. It is a rising agent, so I don't see any harm in it. And you would only use a small amount just to give it an extra boost. But if you don't want to use yeast, use cultured buttermilk, like the probiotic one with the live bacteria in it, or yogurt, or add some caraway seeds. Somebody commented that they have heard of fennel seeds to be used. I haven't heard that before, but that might be an option as well. Apparently there's some sort of an enzyme around those kind of seeds which make I don't know, just work and give it the extra power, the extra boost. So normally if you have a good starter, if your starter is established and bubbly and happy, and with bubbly I don't mean it's necessarily overflowing over the glass, but you should see some bubbles, you should see some air bubbles in your starter before you shove it in the fridge with lots of flour to preserve it and leave it there until you use it next time. Water quality can be another aspect. If you use tap water, it can be chlorinated, sorry, can be chlorinated, and that's not good for the bacteria. It can kill the bacteria. The flour could have been old or not of really good quality. So there's a number of variables, but yeah, first look at your starter. Like I can make a pretty good pre-dough with just cheap plain flour from Aldi. and my starter. That is no issue there, but I do have a pretty strong starter. I'm on rainwater here, so I don't need to use any different water, but yeah, that could be one of the reasons, that the bacteria just isn't strong enough in the starter, and then it just creates a bit of a mush. Alternatively, if the starter is good and the pre-dough is just a bit watery, just use less water when you actually mix the dough up, and see how it turns out. Like, you will get a feeling for it, how the dough turns out. You saw the difference between the spelt bread, which had a really dry dough. You could knead it, you could stretch it. It came off the bowl quite easily. But with the rye, it just, you know, it's watery. It's you can't really grab it as like a whole piece. That's just how rye is. Rye just has less gluten, and therefore it doesn't build that strong structure, and therefore it's a lot waterier than wheat flour, for example. So hopefully that helped. Let me know if you have any other questions, and I'll try to answer them. And yeah, just give this rye bread a go. It's, like I said, relatively quick and easy, and it tastes good. Hubby ate it too, and he's normally not the rye bread kind of person. So, but he also ate the spelt bread. He really liked the spelt one. I found the spelt bread recipe a little bit too complicated for my liking. I like it quick and easy, like this one. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Welcome to all the new people, and I'll see you next time. Bye.